he's usually, well, we're very incredible on this particular thing that we did last year, which is coming up to this year, and it was incredible. It was magnificent. And then Biden will go, but I think if you cut my head open again, like the surgeons did literally to look inside my head, I think that the roaches and the kids might like the blonde hair on my legs. And everybody's scratching their head and laughing their asses off, and it'll take a fucking day and a half for that goddamn debate to finish. So
here's a question I need to ask you. So because they tried to impeach Trump and it didn't happen, I was seeing like an article that says that kind of nullifies his first term. So if he could essentially win 2 more times in a row if he wanted to because of that impeachment that didn't go through.
Well, that depends upon the Constitution and, of course, the Supreme Court's interpretation of it. As it is now, you can't serve more than 2 presidencies. Putin got around his Constitution because in their Constitution, which I forget when they instituted it, probably only about 10 years ago, 12 years ago or so, you can't have a president serving 2 consecutive terms. So what he did, he served 2 terms, stepped down to become the president, not the president, the prime minister, I think is what they call it, the prime minister of Russia, and then Medvedev became the prime minister, became the president. Then he stepped down, and now Putin's president again, and I think he changed the rules, and now he can be president for at least 8 years. But if they don't change the rules of the Constitution that we have, that's going to be kind of dicey. It's going to be up to the Supreme Court.
I think it was
wondering, now because of that failure, that he could run a third time because now that they took place and it didn't happen, it nullifies his term to the point where he could run again because of it.
Well, I don't know. You have to think about what happened.
All I know is this, is that I've said it on this show before and I've said it again. I think that's a dumb, stupid rule that doesn't need to be a rule anymore. The whole fucking, you can only serve 2 terms and then you can't serve again. And of course it doesn't have to be consecutive terms, it doesn't matter. I think it was correct me if I'm wrong, Grover Cleveland who won, then was voted out, and then he won again afterwards, and that was it. But I think that if you say we get the fucking greatest president in the world in there. I'm not saying we've had that, but I'm saying, say we do. Say we get, like, this motherfucker is great, he does everything right, the fucking country's going in the right direction and stuff. It's fucking asinine to me that, like, it's asinine to me that this motherfucker can't run for a 3rd term and that the people can't choose to keep going with that motherfucker. Now, I know that there's, you could think, like, well, there's some, that's probably in there because, we don't want to have this king complex or whatever, but I think that that's kind of just outdated. Russia is stronger and is going to keep getting stronger the longer that Putin is running that country, if he's running it well. And quite frankly, he probably is running it much better than anybody who came, of course, before him, for the most part, Gorbachev and the Soviet Union and shit. So, he's taken a fucking shit sandwich and at least turned it into a fucking, fucking rotisserie chicken.
Well, I'm going to disagree with him. I think the two-term limit for a president is good. Otherwise, he would become king and find some other way to become the king. Have you guys ever seen the TV series House of Cards, especially the first episode?
So no, but I've actually heard people, discuss this a little bit. How good House of Cards was, and specifically like the first episode.
Well, it was a great series, and it showed about behind the scenes, but in a way that it's kind of believable. What happened was the first episode, Kevin Spacey played the Speaker of the House, and he was promised to be the VP nominee by the president himself. So Kevin Spacey goes out and gets the president reelected, and then he finds out he's not going to be, the VP, right? He's not going to be selected to be the VP. So what he does, he plots this very convoluted scheme which works, in which he will become not a cabinet member, but he will become the vice president of the United States, and then as a result of his machinations, he will have the president removed so that he can become the president, which he does. So there are ways of getting around the Constitution. But FDR was a very popular president. As you guys know, he served 4 terms, but he didn't do very much to really improve the economics of the United States, although some historians will say that he did with his work programs. However, 7 million people died of starvation during that time, and 33 million people were out of work, and the Depression lasted from 1929 until World War II. So it wasn't exactly a great period of time of prosperity, but FDR was popular nevertheless. I am afraid of the King complex. I am afraid of psychopaths who are like Nancy Pelosi, who are like Schiff, who are like McConnell, who are on both the Republicans and the Libertarian side, cuckoos. The Democratic side, that if they become president, you can forget about it. It's bad enough Pelosi Speaker of the House, So I'm kind of for it. Now, if you wanted to say you can't serve 2 consecutive terms, and then maybe if the president was really cool, he could run again and have the people vote for him, I might have to think about that, because I do not have faith in the intellect of the average, ordinary American when it comes to anything, much less voting in our representatives.
Yeah, and I think there is a weird caveat there. Lyndon Johnson basically was in a position to where he could have almost basically served 3 terms, if I remember correctly, because he was thrust into the office because Kennedy got his brains blown out. He wasn't technically elected for that first term, so he could have ran once again. He could have basically ran and got elected 2 times. Of course, he chose not to run because he was, I don't know, I guess he was fed up with it. But I guess that's kind of a caveat, kind of a way to go about it. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I just, I used to think it was good for, my philosophy for the longest time was that give a president 1 term, and I would always vote for whoever the other person was next. Because I feel like you give somebody 4 years in the office, it's not a lot of time to fuck things up. And not only that, but that second term is where you really see, because they know that they don't have to worry about getting reelected again. That second term is really when they start trying to enact their policies that are going to be maybe controversial and things like that are going to last beyond their presidency. I mean, Obamacare, even now, it's still a thing. It doesn't go away. There's no publicity for it, but it's still a program out there. And, even though it doesn't have a lot of backing from the executive branch, it is still out there. But that's what I'm saying, is some of those policies that get enacted in those second terms that really have these lasting effects for a while. But still, I mean that's kind of my philosophy on that. But still, I just still believe that we don't have the best and brightest people running for the highest government of our office, and that's a shame. And it doesn't even. I think there's plenty of people out there who would be willing to run and would have good ideas and would be great presidents and stuff, but they're not going to do it because of all the bullshit that's attached to it, because of all the digging into your personal life, all the cancel culture that's going on right now, that basically if you've ever done anything wrong in your life and somebody finds out about it, that pretty much you're going to be fucking toast. which is definitely harder in today's day and age where everything's fucking out there on social media. So I think that's really scaring a lot of people away. Somehow Trump seems to be immune to it because this motherfucker has so much dirt on him. And it's not even like his dirt, like he's accepted it, because I think as Americans, we like to tear people down and build them back up. You know, I mean, so like when people apologize for shit and stuff like that, we'll forgive and things like that. But Trump's a different animal to where, like, he doesn't apologize for stuff. He doesn't even acknowledge that he's ever done anything wrong. And, like, people don't know how to handle that. And it goes against kind of everything. I guess it doesn't go against everything we have. It goes against everything we claim to respect as America. But it actually goes to the root of the truth. Is that if you deny everything and you never fucking admit to anything, then it's really hard to fucking nail you down for anything. And I think that's like the fucking one thing that this guy has figured out, is that if he doesn't fucking admit to anything and he just fucking denies, that nobody can fucking touch him.
Well, he's a master showman, so he knows what he's doing. Without Twitter, it's kind of unlikely he would have been president. I think Twitter was the one leverage and one edge that might have gotten him the presidency. But your point about Lyndon Johnson is well put. He actually instituted a false flag and got us into the Vietnam War on a false flag basis. And I think both Democrats and Republicans acknowledge that.
Tonkin Bay or whatever?
Right, the Gulf of Tonkin. Yeah. He lied about what happened. He blew it all up, sensationalized it, and then stirred up American nationalism, and everybody went to war over an incident that didn't happen. So, and he knew it didn't happen, but he kept on, perpetuating the myth about it. So, since he got into the presidency by default, since Kennedy was assassinated, I guess technically he just might have had 2 more terms that he could have served if he had wanted to continue. Why he didn't, I don't know, because that guy was the epitome of the Southern corrupt politician. So why he didn't want to have it again, got me. But with regards to Trump, he does deny a lot, but there's a lot of truth in his denial. Like, for example, if you remember what was the name of the tape? Hollywood Access tape. That the liberals blew up and said, see, Trump grabbed pussy. No, that's not what the tape said. The tape said if you were a Hollywood celebrity, you could grab as much pussy as you wanted to because they wanted you, because the women themselves wanted you to. That's what he said. And, when it came to bankruptcies, technically, he says he didn't go bankrupt. I don't know how he can say that technically, but I guess because he never had to go on restructuring, I guess he never really had to undergo bankruptcy. But from what I heard, he's had more businesses than people are aware of, and only a small percentage of his total businesses have ever gone down the bankruptcy trail. I may be wrong about that. I didn't read it. I heard about it on the radio, so I don't know what's true about that. And what's to say what is true? I personally think that the virus itself, COVID itself, is not as dangerous as they're making it out to be. And when you take into consideration that the federal government is now mandating that coroners have to put down on their death certificate if that particular patient who died had any contact with somebody who may or may not have had the virus, and if let's say you've had diabetes for 20 years, or you've had coronary thrombosis for 5 years, and you all of a sudden you contract the virus, right? But you've only had it 2 days before you die. They want the coroners to list that cause of death as being coronavirus, which is going to blow the figures up in terms of the death rate tremendously.
But I mean,
so
if they had the virus, I mean, if they wouldn't